We are close to 2/3 of the way through session. I want to thank everyone for their hard work this session. My name is Sean Laham from Self Advocates in Leadership, or SAIL. My visual description is a white middle-aged man with a blue shirt on. I have a picture of the SAIL logo and SAIL members in the background. Today's topic is on social engagement, looking at how to make our communities more welcoming and help people with I/DD get out into the community and have fun. Just a few reminders today. Please use the Q&A box for any questions you have today. It can be found in the More menu, depending on how you are accessing Zoom. We would prefer you only use the chat today for only the important links and for those that need it for accessibility reasons. We again prefer you use the Q&A for questions, and we encourage you to avoid long discussions in the chat because they can be distracting. We will be taking a few questions during the program, but due to time we may not get to everybody. If you stay after the main program ends, some of us stay to answer more questions. We also need you to click on the globe icon today in Zoom and select if you want to hear today's program in English or Spanish, as this will help with our interpretation services. And then lastly, we want to encourage all of our speakers today to speak slower so that our interpretation services correctly relays your words. With that, I will pass it to my two co-MCs today to introduce themselves. Starting with Emily this time.
Hello, my name's Emily Rogers. I'm the Director of Public Policy for the DD Council, and I'm glad to be here with you today and look forward to a great day. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Eric Mathis. Happy to be here. Let's have a great day.
Yep. Okay. Talk today.
This is Sean. Our first speaker is Kathy Murayashi, who will give us an overview on our topic.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Whoops, my screen's going all over the place. Hold on.
There's no whoops in technology.
So our topic today is about social engagement, and really, social engagement is that piece about, everybody needs friends. They need to be able to connect with other people. They need to have the opportunity to do things that they enjoy. And they need to have the opportunity to learn new things. And I think those are just human needs. They're not special needs, they're human needs. And, the problem is that when people don't have that opportunity, it can lead to isolation and loneliness. And, there's been some studies recently, and isolation and loneliness is actually public health issue. I mean, it impacts your health if you are not able to have those kind of connections with people and with other people. It's just really important. And we know that there's a lot of barriers. So some of our DDA services are there to help. There's community engagement, respite can help, community inclusion, some personal care can take you out into the community. And also there's a new service, I don't know if you know, on your waiver that will help with some transportation issues. So that's something that's new and it's kind of exciting. In the Basic Plus, it's in your aggregate services. But we are very happy that is part of our waiver services now. But we also know there's a lot of barriers to really having those connections. Sometimes when we go places, people with disabilities are not welcomed. Sometimes the problem is they just don't have the support to participate, and there's not enough support. And sometimes, again, that lack of transportation is huge. If you can't get there, it's not going to do you any good. And then sometimes folks just don't have money to pay for an activity. They might want to do something, but they don't have any money to do it. And oftentimes our folks are low income, so that's particularly a problem. You know, and we talked a little bit about the DDA services and the support, those often provide some supports. The problem is that really there's not enough of them. It's like you can have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but trying to pull it all together and have enough things to do to be meaningful for the person is a problem. And so, you know, part of the issue is that we need to continue to advocate for folks to have more and to have adequate support for those things. And I think, so what's needed? We need strong, welcoming, accessible communities. We need and programs and spaces that are strong, welcoming, and accessible. We need accessible transportation. And then we need investments in person-centered supports that you know, that are the things that you want to do as an individual, and that those are adequate. Okay, and I think that might be that's the last slide. I'm going to stop sharing. There you go.
I think it's happy for all of you. Now,
This is Sean. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce Therese Fafaizadeh. My apologies if my app pronounced that wrong. Therese is from the Tavan Center, and she will be addressing the importance of respite.
welcome to
Thanks, Sean. And actually, your app did a pretty good job with that last name, better than a lot of people do. So as Sean said, I'm the founder and executive director of Tavan Learning Center. We provide community-based respite and are located in Issaquah. Respite is important for both the caregiver and the participant, especially in our state, because we don't really have anything else that is similar to respite in the community, such as other states that have day hab or things like that. Respite provides the caregiver much needed time away to recharge their batteries. And I can speak to that as a parent who is currently exhausted from getting up at 4 a.m. And my daughter is now at Tavan, and I am using my respite to talk here today. So it's just also important that the respite is quality. So when somebody goes into a respite program, that it's not 10 people sitting around on site, not getting out, that our community-based respite programs are actually community-based, that we go out and interact with the community. We learn, we have social engagement, recreation, all the things that make for a meaningful day. And currently, people, as Kathy said, we have to piece it together, the meaningful day, with respite, with community engagement, with community inclusion, and with supported employment. So respite is one piece of that also supports the caregiver, and makes it possible for caregivers to continue to care for their loved one. My daughter's 42 and still lives with us, and the respite is imperative for both my husband and I to be able to continue to do that for her.
Sean, you're muted.
yeah. I believe we have a few minutes if people have any questions. Otherwise, I'm gonna pass it to Eric.
It's my pleasure to introduce Courtney Tom, and her topic is talking about Special Olympics. Go ahead, Courtney.
Thank you, Eric. Special Olympics is a nonprofit organization to have people with intellectual and developmental disabilities have a place to play and feel included. Through the power of sports, people with intellectual disabilities discover new strengths and abilities, skills, and success. Our athletes find confidence and fulfillment on playing the field and in life. They also inspire people that in their communities and elsewhere, open their hearts to a wider world of human talents and potential. And Special Olympics of Washington is very inclusive. So you can do all type of sports that you like bowling, basketball, softball, powerlifting, swimming, men's artistic gymnastics, women's artistic gymnastics, and we also do track and golf, any sport that you guys like to do. And within Special Olympics, you can even hold leadership as being an athlete leader. And what athlete leaders do, they go through trainings like understanding athlete leadership, an introduction to athlete leadership, and even athlete leaders can participate in special. They help to listen to all the athletes and be role models for people in Special Olympics. And these are some of the awards that they can get. This is a gold medal. And this one is a silver medal. And we go, so people do regionals. If they get gold, they go off to state. And we also go to nationals. If you qualify in the sport that you're participating in for nationals, we're sending 10 athletes from Washington for Special Olympics nationals in 2026. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. That is awesome. Sounds like a great organization there. It's my pleasure to introduce Renanan Bartinsley and Max Higby.
From Max Higby. Yeah. Is she here?
I am. Hi, good morning, everybody. How are you? Thank you, Eric, for the introduction. My name is Rhiannon Bardsley. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. My name is Rhiannon Bardsley. I'm with the Max Higby Center. We are in Whatcom County and predominantly actually Bellingham. We have a center in Bellingham. We have been around since, well, officially founded in 1985, but been doing different kinds of recreational opportunities even prior to that into the late 70s. So I'll just give you a quick little update on kind of where we are right now. We've grown significantly over the last few years. It was very much a grassroots organization that was founded by Western professors and some local teachers and parents and advocates, really to create a space where individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities get to be in community with each other and be have friends. Literally, the tagline is a place for friends. And I got to do a presentation yesterday morning, actually, for Phillips 66 Refinery, and one of our members joined us. And she went on and on about how much fun she loves hanging out with her friends. She loves to do the activities. She loves to go on bike rides with us. We go snowshoeing. We just had a play on Saturday night where we had 250, maybe 300 people in the audience and 40 actors, all members of the Max Higby Center. They wrote the play and acted in it, and it's something that's done on an annual basis. Just wonderful opportunities. And really, we are able to do that because of the community support. We can't do it just relying on our state respite dollars and others. We really have a broad community of support that has been around for many, many years. Two of our board members are founding board members, so have been on for 40 years, and are just committed and dedicated to making sure that this organization is rooted in its founding principles, which is recreation is a right, and being able to socialize and have access to opportunities that help with mental health, physical well-being, just and to get out of that social isolation that can happen. And I think we all maybe experienced that during COVID in a different and unique way, and just highlights the importance for us all to have opportunities to be in community with each other, and to explore and try new things. So I don't want to blabber on for too long, but I'll just say the last little piece is we have, so like I mentioned, we have grown quite a bit. So we are now, we have over 220 members. They are welcome to come as early as, well, we're open at 9:30, but oftentimes people are coming as early as 8:30. And so we staff up for it. And then we close at 5:30, but oftentimes people are staying until like 6. And that's Monday through Friday. And then we also have weekend programs, which are our kind of longest running programs. So Friday and Saturday nights, from 5:30 to 8:30. We also have programming, and both inside the center and out. So go and explore and do different community activities together. And sometimes we just stay in the building, depending on what the members want. They get to set the calendar for the month in advance. So they're the ones telling us every day what kind of activities we're going to be doing. But then we also have the ability to just pivot. If some folks don't want to do that activity or do a different activity, we have enough staff that we can send a group out, and also a group can stay in. And then we also do one-on-one services, so mentorships, community engagement, and then we just secured and started a contract for community inclusion services as well. So we only have one person in that at this point, but I believe 19 in mentorship, and I think in the mid-20s for community engagement. And we have a wait list. We have a wait list for our programs, our weekday programs, and then we also have wait lists for our one-on-one services. And that is just the reality of where we're at right now. Okay, I'm gonna pause. I do see a hand.
Margaret Lee Thompson. You're muted.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Would you be so kind to tell me again the name of your center?
Yeah, it is called the Max Higby Center. And Susan just put in the chat the link to the website. And Max Higby is, or was, I should say, a professor at Western Washington University here in Whatcom County, and in the rec leadership department. And so it was named after him after he passed away. But he was really one of like the forces and strongest advocate for creating this kind of opportunity in our community at the time. And so they decided to name the center after him after he passed.
Great. So I heard you say you do community inclusion. Do you do community engagement?
We do community engagement, community
And
inclusion,
respite?
and mentorship. Yeah, well, the way we call it mentorship, and then respite. Yes.
Thank you.
And about a quarter of our budget is government funding, and the rest we are able to either fundraise through individual donations, events, or philanthropy, local, like United Way and other private foundations.
Great.
Mona, I have a question. Can you say a little more about your mentorship? How does that work?
Yeah, so we we have individual members who will identify kinds of activities that they're interested in. Sometimes it's reading, like they want to just practice and learn how to read. So we have a 70-year-old who does that every week with his mentor. We also have folks who really want to do like train for like a 5K. So we have folks who are going to the YMCA, like a staff member, and the member will go to the YMCA and work on that. We have other folks who want to, it's really just it's really variety, but it's an opportunity for the member to really just have one-on-one self-directed time. And yeah, it ranges all over the place. We have some folks who like to do art, and so they'll work on sewing or knitting, and we just find a staff member who is competent in that area of interest and try to schedule and match that. The scheduling part is the most challenging.
How is that paid for? Is that paid for under CI, CE, respite? Is it something
CE.
Okay.
Terry. Oh, can I call on people? Sorry.
Yeah,
Eric.
you can, Terry. Good
I
job.
wanted to follow up a bit on what was just asked you. So you talked about your funding. How will cuts to Medicaid affect your respite and the wages and things like that?
All of that, I don't know yet. I mean, it's a great question. We'll find out and see what trickle down seems to work when it's going to negatively impact us. So I'm not exactly sure, but like I said, it's only about 25% of our budget. We do offer financial aid. So we do have folks that are coming 40 hours a week that we use unrestricted dollars for, or philanthropy for. So we may just see an increase in the need for fundraising and donations from our local community, and just ask very pointedly, like, this was what will go away, right? And so we really need your continued investment on a local level. I think to find a silver lining in it, which is challenging to do, is that there is, we do have community support, and like everybody understands the impact. Like, this is not just like a single population issue that is happening. This is like across the board. People are feeling the impacts of the current administration's decisions and actions. And on a federal level and state. So I don't think we don't have to explain why we're asking for more and need more, except like to let them know what the impact will be if we don't have it. So that is one thing we have going for us in this current world.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions for Betsy? If not, then it's my pleasure to introduce Karen Williams from Trillium, and the topic is on community inclusion.
Thanks
Thanks,
all. Thanks, Eric.
Eric.
Sorry.
Oh,
Yes.
thanks, Eric. Well, good
Sure.
morning.
Yeah.
This topic of social engagement is so important because it highlights the humanity in people, of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So people like everyone else who want to experience belonging. So I'm really excited to be here for part of this. I'm Karen Williams. I'm the executive director of Trillium. And Trillium is one of the many agencies in Washington that provides community inclusion and employment services. And community inclusion, or maybe you've heard CI, I already hear us throwing out the acronyms. CI is one way to support individuals in being part of their community and making meaningful contributions. So some of the ways I think that community inclusion works is it supports people to contribute to their community through volunteer work, serving on boards, advisory groups, in advocacy or other civic activities. It supports people to learn, practice, and apply skills that help them connect with others, or to pursue education or skill building that's not focused on their career. And then to build and strengthen relationships through hobbies or interests that they enjoy. And community inclusion is not new. I don't know how much, I was a little bit late jumping in here from another meeting, so I don't know how much was covered, but inclusion isn't new, but there have been some changes in recent years that make it confusing, unfortunately. So it used to be called community access. And in the past, you had to choose between community access and employment. But the good thing through advocacy, like days like today, is that the community got together and said, no, people should have access to community inclusion and employment services. And so in 2022, we passed a law that allowed people to access both. And together, it helps people build a full life. So community inclusion is also a little bit different from community engagement. And, you know, someday maybe we'll sort this all out for everybody. But let me highlight a few things that I think are key to community inclusion, in case you aren't familiar with it, or like many of us, it sounds the same as some of the other services that are out there. So community inclusion is completely individualized, and that means that it's tailored to the person's goals, interests, and support needs. So unlike a group activity, say Special Olympics or recreational program through your local parks and rec, which offers set activities for everyone, community inclusion allows for unique and customized experiences. So for example, if a recreation program offers bowling and swimming, but someone wants to do a breakdancing class, then community inclusion can help them go find a studio in their community where there's breakdancing. And there they can build this new skill set, meet other people with the same passion around breakdancing, and expand their social connections. So individualized. The second thing is it really is focused on building relationships and expanding the social networks, specifically the idea to build networks in people's lives that aren't paid to be there. And this is so important that, you know, a strong community inclusion experience will lead to these new connections and opportunities. So people will meet others who share their interests, and over time, those relationships can grow into friendships or just additional resources in their lives. So for example, someone who is volunteering at a local forest, nature preserve, might meet others who love the outdoors, and then they're getting a ride from someone to go to the local conservation event, or to go on a hike. So then now they've added another person in their life that isn't someone who's paid through a service. It's a natural, normal connection. So the three things, so far we've talked about individualized, expanding social networks. And the third thing that I really love about community inclusion is it's a chance to build leadership opportunities. So community inclusion is a great way for our communities broadly to see the skills and talents of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Community inclusion can support people to be on advisory boards or nonprofit boards, school councils, city planning groups, or even run for elected office. We want more opportunities for people with disabilities to influence the policies and the funding that are important in their communities. So imagine if every city planning council had someone with a disability there, ensuring that accessibility was included from the beginning of any plan. Or if an animal lover got to join the board of their local shelter to improve animal welfare in a bigger scale. So community inclusion services are tailored to the individual. And some people use community inclusion to explore different activities until they find what really excites them. Others are using community inclusion to build skills. Maybe they haven't had a ton of experience being out in the community, or using assistive technology to communicate, or getting comfortable in new environments. So that's how they're using community inclusion. And some folks are totally involved in their rock climbing gym, and it's, you know, just a regular part of their schedule now that they're using CI to support them in the community outside of their job. So the goal is to help each person find a meaningful activity where they can build relationships and be a part of their community. And great things happen when people expand their social network. So it's really cool to see this happening.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Karen, excuse me? If not, then it's my pleasure to introduce Heather Evans from WISE and talking about REACH.
Hi, everyone. I'm so honored to be here with you today. And I'm really excited to go after Karen and to be able to present to you about REACH. And first, let me define what REACH is. REACH is the Recreation, Employment, and Community Hub. And this was funded by the Dan Thompson Memorial Grant. So this, you know, when we have community connections, when we have relationships, when we have recreation, we are healthier, happier humans, right? And when we talk about humans as we're social animals, all of us, even the most introverted of us, needs a place in the community, needs to be able to have fun, experience joy, and that's what REACH exists for. So this is a community hub designed in partnership with and for people with disabilities, with the goal of creating a space with inclusion at its core. Join us and discover exciting, I'm reading, can you tell, activities, connect with like-minded people, access resources to find recreation in your community. So there's 4 key components to the Recreation, Empowerment, and Community Hub. The first one is a discussion, and I'm going to show you what that discussion hub looks like. And I'll share that we haven't yet turned this on. We're waiting for some accessibility features, ASL interpretation, language interpretation, but I want to give you a sneak peek and then invite you to sign up for an invitation. So this is the REACH. Can you all can see the REACH Community Hub here? Find fun, find your community. Yes, thank you, Kathy. I see you're not. So the REACH Hub has some opening ways that we will be in community together. And there is a discussion board where people can share different resources, share what's happening in your community, share free links and resources to events. There's also a video library where we're featuring some of those folks, that some of these folks are using community inclusion services to find recreation in their community. Some are not. There's Larry. So this is some of our consultants and their stories. And we also have a toolkit, which really can help folks walk through, how do I gather who is my team, first of all? What do they exist for? How can I gather them and get them to support me with finding recreation, engaging in recreation in my community? All about me, what are my skills, talents, interests? How do I, if I've never been in the community, or if I don't have a lot of exposure being in the community or learning about my interests, what are some ways that I can identify what those might be? How can I find fun things to do in the community? What is a good plan? What are my transportation options? Are there any in my community? What could I learn about? What's available to me right now? How do I access fun things that I want to do? How do I remember? What if I need personal care? How can I plan for that? And then self-advocacy in the community. So this toolkit is available both as an online walkthrough curriculum and as a printable toolkit, a booklet. Last but far from least, we're going to be offering webinars that you can sign up for, where people with disabilities are leading conversations about how they found and became engaged in recreation in their community. And one of the things I really love about these stories is that it's not always using a service provider. Sometimes finding community happens within your own community and without a service provider. So I'm going to, in the chat box, I am going to give you a link to this flyer where you can scan this code and receive an invite to the Reach Hub. This was designed with the support of and consultation of folks with disabilities. And so some of us are in there poking around right now, but we really want to make sure before we open it up for wide distribution that all of the accessibility features that are available in a site like this are in play. So you can scan the code on that at the link, and on the flyer, you'll get an invitation to join the Reach Hub when it's released, which should be in the next few weeks. And I just want to say that I really loved, I think it was Rhiannon who said, recreation is a right. Maybe it was you, Karen. I don't remember. Recreation is a right. And together, when we're sharing resources, when we are talking about what's going on in our community, when we're sharing stories of success, when we're going, oh my goodness, I found this really cool thing, let me share it with my community, we are way stronger together. We know that when we rise, we make things happen. So super excited to be sharing that with you. Look forward to seeing you on the hub, and we'll talk soon.
Heather, can you, oh, excuse me. Can you tell a little bit more about who the hub is, the audience of the hub is? Who should be using the hub?
Yeah, so really this is designed to be led by people with lived experience of disability. I imagine also that they and parents and providers will be using this hub. It really is designed for folks with disabilities, and it is a website. It's a web-based thing. Not everybody, one of our consultants said, not everybody uses the internet. So it can be downloaded as a booklet to work through. So it really is designed for folks with disabilities. Providers, parents, advocates are also welcome to be in there, sharing resources and links. Yeah. Does that fully answer your question, Kathy?
Yeah.
Any other questions or? Yeah, thank you.
That was great information. Thank you, Heather. And now
Excellent.
I'd like to introduce Emily Rogers as our next speaker.
Hello. So next on our agenda, I would like to introduce Devin Edelman, Creating a Life, Special Olympics.
Let me get your PowerPoint up, okay? Just a sec. I got to find the screen that lets me share my screen.
Makes sense.
Devin, it looks like
Makes total sense. I'm on my phone, so I'm able to take some time to do this.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
There you go.
Cool.
You'll just have to tell me when to move them along.
You can move a slide.
The next one. Okay.
Yeah, next one. Hi. I'm Devin. I'm going to chat a little about Down syndrome, my experiences, Special Olympics Washington, the Down Syndrome Center, and lastly, Summit Community Center. Someone said that Down syndrome is sort of two spectrums, before and after. Without expectations, community engagement, or investment, life experiences was less than 20 years. Institutions were common. Obesity, catatonia, and childlike expectations were normal. People led the dependent lives. Next slide, please.
Yeah, sorry.
So with the after, with expectations, community engagement, and investment. People have inclusive education, college graduates, competitive integrated employment, community engagement, relationships and marriage, life expectancies over 60 years with their full, meaningful lives. Clearly, the after situation is my hope that everyone gets to have high expectations with opportunities and support to meet those expectations. My life has been included with expectations and access to medical, educational, and social engagement. I am 28 years old. I'm a daughter, a sister, a friend, and a girlfriend, a college graduate, a taxpayer, an animal lover, and so many more things. Special Olympics is more than sports. It's outreach, leadership, and friendship. I am a multiple silver medalist starting in high school. I'm a full-season athlete. I'm also a national gold medalist in stand-up paddleboarding. I am a Special Olympics ambassador. I'm a leader on the Athlete Leadership Council. I'm also a health messenger, along with a certified fitness and health coach and captain. To me, the SOA Special Olympics of Washington community is life-changing and impactful to the disability community. Through sport, we make new and lifelong friendships, connections, and memories, building communities along the way.
Sorry.
The Down Syndrome Center is a new place, but an established community. I am a board member alumni. I am the advocacy board chair. I'm a leader, a role model. It also hosts community events, classes, and therapies, and also it supports advocacy. The DSC community has been a valuable resource for so many families, with a huge impact in the Down syndrome community. The DSC community lifts people with Down syndrome so their voices can be seen and heard by all to hear their voices and stories. The Summit Community Center is groundbreaking, creating a place to learn and belong. Here are some of my favorite things. I love doing the pizza socials that they have. I love to go on the community outings. I also like the cooking and planning classes. The budgeting for life class has been so helpful and useful. And I'm also love dreaming about my future and just hanging out with friends. The Summit Community Center holds a special place in my heart because it is where I reconnected with an old soul and friend who became my love. The Summit Community Center has been a great place for so many people with disabilities. It is not only my story, because there are so many people out there who have been waiting for the Summit Community Center to open so they can connect, reconnect, learn, make an impact on others by doing the right things for people with disabilities to be happy and supported with a great purpose and compassion for others who put people with disabilities first. What can you do? Believe, expect, and invest. Believe, people like me are capable. Expect more from others and yourself. Invest in an inclusive future by supporting community programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Devon. That was lovely. Such a great presentation. We really appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question and a comment. Devin, that was a really great presentation, and I've been to the Summit Center. It is a really wonderful place. And as a parent of somebody who has much higher support needs, I'm really happy to hear a self-advocate talk about how important these kinds of places are, where you can have friendships. And because oftentimes I feel like as a parent, people think I'm putting my daughter in a box, which is not at all what I want to do or am doing. So anyway, thank you for shedding light on this from the perspective of somebody who is a self-advocate. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I really appreciate your comments. So thank you.
I think I saw one other hand.
Mona?
Yeah,
Mona.
I was just wondering where this community center is located.
It's on Capitol Hill.
Oh, Seattle.
Yes, yes, Capitol Hill, Seattle.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
One of the really cool things about Summit Community Center is it's right on public transportation, that people can easily get to it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure.
So
It's
next,
a pleasure to be here.
Awesome.
Thank you, Devin.
Next on our agenda, we have Mona Firstenow, and she'll be talking about creating a full life. Thank you, Mona, for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for inviting me. When Kathy invited me, she suggested I just talk about what I've done over the years with my son. He's 33 now, so some of this has been in the works for a long time, creating his life as it is today. So I have a couple of things that I say all the time to parents and advocates. Number one, be really intentional about discovering the interests of the person you're creating the whole life for. And CI and CE can be great avenues for exploring things you've never tried, so you know whether you like them or not, whether you want to do more or whether you're just, that was it, don't want to do it anymore. And the other one is to really just regularly show up to whatever places you're interested in pursuing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our journey. My son is very highly interested in music, has always been. And so we've made an effort to go to every free concert there is in the parks in the summer, at the community college, at churches, anytime there's free music. And one of the times we did that, someone from the community band, which is open to all ages, came up to us afterwards because he really loves to use his whole body to experience the music and conduct. Came up to him afterwards and invited him to come to a rehearsal. That was 12 years ago, and he's still part of that regular weekly rehearsal of band and the concerts that they do throughout the year. He doesn't play an instrument, but he is part of the band. They've become his group of people. That's his passion, is music. And so by going to concerts that were available in the community, we found a group that welcomed him, and he has been part of that for 12 years. A similar sort of story, another passion of his is tractors. And I got so tired of reading him books about and magazines about tractors that I thought there's got to be other people who love tractors. Let me find them. And so we went to the county fair, and talked to people at the tractor displays, all of those equipment displays and so forth at the county fair, and introduced ourselves. And you know, when you love something and you talk passionately about it and someone else really enjoys it and talks passionately back to you, then you have a connection. So those folks who were selling tractors and demonstrating tractors really enjoyed finding the interest that my son had in tractors, and that led to an invitation to going to a horse ranch and learning a little bit more about the equipment on the horse ranch and the community farm. So we have a heritage farm here in Vancouver that works with the county food bank to grow food for the food bank all year long. And we've been involved now. Ben has been going there for about 9 years, to the community farm. He gets to see tractors. He gets to ride on gators. He contributes to the growing the food for the food bank that then goes to the food bank and distributed to the community. So those were interests of his that led to connections and relationships that are ongoing. He's also was fascinated with fire trucks. And so when he was in school, we set up a work experience at the fire station. He was probably freshman in high school at that time. He still visited the fire station. He's 33 now. He knows all of the cadets. They meet him every year. He knows the staff. He visits regularly. And this ongoing relationship that he's been having for 15 years. He and it's still one of his passions, but he's able to meet with other people who have that same interest. So it's really important to find an interest and then find a way to connect to that interest and keep that ongoing. So one of the other work experiences he had in high school was at a nursery plant care yard and garden kind of center. We approached them through CI and CE about a volunteer position. They didn't have that because they were supporting job experiences for high school students, but he still would go and visit every couple of weeks, and he still goes and visits. He still knows the staff. And just last week, he went to visit and got to start up the forklift and lift up a pile of bags of dirt, and so that the driver could then drive it and move it to where it needed to be moved. And so, again, a long-term relationship because he visited, he has an interest, get to know relationships with people, and those relationships are what help maintain that kind of interaction and spot in the community. So those kinds of things were things we did, and honestly, 15 years ago, CI and CE were not nearly as robust as they are now. So a lot of it was things that we did ourselves. I think CI and CE can be great tools for people to discover what they like, what they don't, and to begin those relationships, because what's going to sustain that interaction is those relationships with the people. So one of his first jobs was plant care and music with children at the Child and Family Studies program on the community college campus. So his love of plants and his exposure at Yard and Garden, that nursery, and his love of music led to that job he had for 4 years. When they cut that funding, he looked for about 8 months for a new job. He found a new job and he's been there 5 years. It's got nothing to do with any of that. And so now his employment really isn't his major areas of interest, but he loves his job and his coworkers and what he's able to do with his job, which is at SEH America. It's a computer wafer tech development company. He works with about 50 other supported employees among a whole staff of about 1,100 people here in Vancouver. It's got nothing to do with his main areas of interest, but it's a whole nother community for him of coworkers doing significant work in a whole different arena we never would have envisioned. So part of what I like to encourage people to do is to regularly show up, pick a spot you like, a day and a time that's similar, go regularly, and you'll begin to see the other regulars or begin to know the other staff and people that are there at that time. When he was in the first couple of years of high school, a new restaurant opened up about a half a mile from the high school. We started going there regularly. A lot of his fellow schoolmates started working there, and it got to be that was his place where he would walk in and they would know he wanted a root beer with no ice, and they'd bring it to the table before he even was able to look at a menu. And we regularly visited that restaurant. And when that location closed, we found where some of the other staff were moving to, and now we go and see them at their new places where they're working. It's just a sense of community for him because he's got those relationships. He likes to go out to eat. So another restaurant we would go to, he got to know the chef because he would regularly ask for extra whipped cream on his strawberry pancakes. Well, that cook left and opened his own restaurant. And now we go to his restaurant. And when Ben walks in, it's a small family restaurant. Everyone knows him. It's a place where he feels comfortable. He can go, and I can drop him out and he can go and have a meal with people that have known him for years. Or someone can drop him out, or he brings friends and we promote their business. It's just a really mutually beneficial relationship. And it comes because you show up repeatedly, regularly at the same place. Once you find a spot you like, and those relationships are what are key to have creating that sense of belonging, that sense of inclusion, that sense of mutuality. My son is bringing something to that relationship. It's not just a one-way relationship. He brings business to the yard and garden nursery. He brings business to the restaurant. He's an ambassador for the band, being an inclusive place. And those kind of relationships came about because of regularly showing up and really tapping into the things that he really loves to do. He does do a couple of other, we use community respite for a couple of other things. So the respite through Parks and Rec. He loves horses. And so if there's anything to do with horses, we do that activity, but we don't regularly do all of the things through Parks and Rec, or we do community inclusion if there's a fishing activity because he likes to do those things. But there's a lot of things he doesn't like to do. So he wouldn't just go participate in a regular weekly community activity time at Parks and Rec and do whatever the activity is, because he's very specific about what he wants to do and what he doesn't have any interest in doing. So we look at those things he likes to do and we access those things. This last fall was the very first time we've ever done Special Olympics, and he's 33. He did Challenger baseball when he was a small guy for about 12 or 13 years. And then he had a number of surgeries and wasn't able to participate for a number of years. And that Special Olympics has been kind of sort of coming full circle. He ran into and started to reconnect with people that he did Challenger baseball with 15 years ago when he was young. And that's been great. And I'm hopeful about some Special Olympics activities in the future that he's able to do, physically able to do now. And that will help him join that community, which is a very vibrant community, as we heard from Devin. So we use community respite. We use a respite provider to access community things on occasion. We have a lot of staff. He has employment. He has community. We have pretty good transportation here in Vancouver. I know that's not true in a lot of places, so I'm not even going to go there. I know it's a huge barrier for most people. And I just want to add in that sometimes the unexpected things come from places you would, they're unexpected, places you wouldn't expect, right? It's really good for my son's body to be in really warm water. And we have one pool here that has like a therapeutic section pool that's easy entry, easy access, and it's open during the mornings. And we went a couple of times. It's really good for him. And initially it was like, well, there's nobody his age. It's all senior citizens, or it's moms with little kids who are accessing the warm water. There's a fountain and it says 0 entry, so you can go in easily. But over time, we've realized, that's really great because he's making relationships with senior citizens that are like surrogate grandparents. His grandparents are no longer with us. And so he's got that generation who are feeding into him some wisdom and some TLC from elders who might also be lonely and like to interact with young people. And it also gives him an opportunity to play with children. And he's a big man. Sometimes children are intimidated or parents aren't comfortable, but in the swimming pool, it's sort of a equalizer. They can play catch, they can throw the ball around, and he's able to interact with children. He's able to interact with senior citizens. So even though at first we thought there's nobody his age because it's the middle of the day, it's actually become a really nice place for him to do multi-generational interaction that he doesn't have in other places in his life. So I encourage you to just explore, have an open mind, but really to be intentional about pursuing and discovering and then pursuing specific interests, and then just pick a couple of spots and regularly show up to develop those relationships over time. And I saw your comment, Rachel. Years ago, I shared about Ben's tractor and his interest in tractors, and finding someone else who was interested in tractors because I was just so tired of that topic. And he now has other people that he can talk to about that, and I don't have to spend nearly as much time talking about tractors. I see you laughing, Sean.
Gary?
Thank you so much, Mona. Do folks have questions?
I think Terry
did. Yeah.
I wanted to comment, Mona, what a wonderful story about the amazing contact after contact and various interests that a person is capable of with support. And I wanted to bring out one thing that comes to me as a parent is your advocacy. You're the one who found places in the beginning. I'm sure you are the one who got him to these places and took him back. And so thank you for your advocacy and action and support for your son. A parent's advocacy never ends, and it's vital to get the energy and take your child out and find these places.
Well, and I've made so many more relationships that I never would have made otherwise. I mean, it's amazing, and it's provided opportunities for me to share about my journey as a parent, about Ben's journey as an adult living with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Um, and and I'll tell you what, in the last few months, we have been hugely advocating throughout all these networks. You can imagine the band, people in the band probably really don't think about Medicaid cuts, but we've been able to say, this is really important, not to Ben and to many, many, many others, that it's not just about healthcare, it's about supported employment and community activity and so forth. We've been able to share back to those networks of people who would not necessarily know how this impacts this population, but we have a relationship with them enough now that we can multiply our advocacy by sharing within those networks. So, and I'm grateful for that, and I'm hopeful for that. So.
Thank you so much. So next on our agenda, coming up shortly, you'll see Kathy will launch the poll about Advocacy Day, and next on our agenda is Kathy Marahashi to talk about the ARC's bills of interest.
Great. There's been a lot happening this week. So let me share my screen. Let's see, where'd the share my screen? I got to make it bigger.
Don't forget about the poll.
There we go. Yes, thank you. And I'll launch that just a second while I'm talking. Okay, do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, because it's weird here. Hold on. I got to get this set up here. And then I'm going to launch the poll now. You can be working on the poll while I talk. How about that? Because I people forget to do this, and I will give you a little more time. Okay. Pull that down. Okay. So today is what is a cutoff day for the legislature. Today by 5 o'clock, a bunch of bills are going to die because they have to all be passed out of their house of origin. So if they haven't gotten to the floor for them to vote on today at 5 o'clock, they're dead. So, but a lot of them have been moving along. So let's talk a little bit about those. So when you see here, it says, whoops, let's see, I'm gonna go back up. So 1390, repealing the community protection program. That bill has passed the House and it's gonna go on over to the Senate. Let's talk a little bit about 5393. That bill, the bill right now says it would close Yakima Valley School and Rainier School. Tomorrow at 4 o'clock, there's going to be a hearing about that bill. And we are asking that people sign in pro on that bill. Sean, could you put the link to where people can sign in directly there into the chat, maybe? That's a really important bill. Yeah, he'll put that in there. So it's important. This is an opportunity. We don't see this opportunity very often to talk about these facilities. But this is about consolidation. So a lot of those people may move to one of the other RHCs, residential habilitation centers. Hopefully a lot of them would move to the community, but it's really an opportunity. Our state on the West, 18 other states have closed all of them. We're the only state on the West Coast that doesn't have a plan to close all of them. Oregon has closed. Oregon, Hawaii, Alaska have all closed their RHCs. California, think about how much bigger California is than us. They only have 2 RHCs and they have less people in it than the state of Washington does. They have about 250 people in all of California. So that just is perspective. Along with that, it's important to emphasize that we need investment in the community to go right along with that. We need people, we need our supported supported living programs to be strengthened and invested in so that we have a strong community. So anyway, that's a big day tomorrow. And let's see, did that go? Let's see. We'll get the link in the chat box in a minute. To where you can sign it. Oh, there it goes. Sean just put it in. Thank you. Okay. The bill, the right to repair your mobility equipment, that bill is passed the Senate. Yay. Probably the House bill, I'm guessing, is probably going to die. Sometimes that happens. Michelle, do you have a question?
I don't have a question. I have a comment, and I'm glad to wait until you're through to share my thoughts.
Okay. Okay, great. There are several education bills, 1357, which supports inclusionary practices. That bill is it's on the list to be passed out today, but we'll see if sometimes they run out of time, right? So we'll see which bills actually get priority. 5253, extending special ed to age 22. That has passed the Senate. And then 5263, another bill that's concerns special education funding. That bill is also sitting there waiting to see if it will pass through today. So it's just kind of hanging there. I expect those two probably will be a priority. The 1217, that limited rental increases and fees, that has passed the House. Representative Farivar's 1130, passed the House. That bill prioritizes the DD waivers for folks over the age of 45, as well as some of their populations. And then there is another bill that's still hanging out there. 5394 is also hanging out. It'll probably go through today. It would eliminate case management for those in the no paid services caseload. And I'm going to flip to a couple of other bills that are not necessarily DD bills, but may be important to you. Let's see, there is one in workforce. 5501 may be important to you. That's concerning employer requirements for driving. So what it does is say, if your job description does not say that you don't have to drive for your job description, they can't make having a driver's license a requirement. So for a lot of our folks that don't work, so oftentimes that's a barrier. Person can do all the work. The job doesn't require them to drive, but then they'll say you need a driver's license to actually qualify to apply for the job. So we think that this is a really good bill for people with disabilities. That's 5501. And one other bill that we just saw come back this last week, 2027. And we're guessing that this probably might be impacted by how they might manage the budget. We'll talk about the budget in a second. And that is 2027, we think is a kind of identical to what we call the REIT bill, the real estate tax bill. The really cool piece about that bill is it has a set aside for DD housing in it. So I think it's a little bit stealth right now. We'll see what happens. 2027. Keep your eye on it. Michelle, do you want to make a comment now, and then I'll talk about the budget briefly?
Sure, thank you. So before I left my previous employment, where I was a residential administrator, I worked on bringing a person out of Rainier. And in the old days, I used to think that just being in supported living was enough to make somebody happy.
Right.
And I've realized that what people need is really robust supported living, community inclusion, community engagement, and employment services so that they can build a life once they get out. Now, I can't really tell you a lot about this guy, but I know he's expressed he's not really happy. And I think that's because that life has not been built for him. And so the closure and consolidation, but especially when people go to the community, having funding for those other services is really important. And I just want to underline that.
We have to, yeah, exactly. We have to talk about, investing in a robust community in the same breath that we say closure. So, okay, the budget. So we're hearing that we're probably going to hear from the, let's see, I've got to look at the calendar. Yeah. Okay, Monday's the 7th. I think the 24th is the date we're going to start hearing about the Senate and the House budgets. There is a very large hole that they've got to fill. And, there's two ways they can do that. The legislators can either make very deep cuts. They're talking about between 12 and 14 billion. That's with a B. In cuts. They can either make cuts or they can raise revenue. We're kind of expecting that they're probably going to do something in between. They might make some cuts and then some revenue, but it just depends how they decide to do that. So will wait to be seen. We've seen the governor has put out he really didn't put out a full budget, but it's more of he took Governor Inslee's budget and then he went through it and he kind of did up or down. Yeah, we're going to do that. No, we're not going to do that. And then there's a whole bunch of things that he kind of was silent on, which means we think that that would be what he would approve of. But, there's important things in there that he would cut. He would cut the professional guardians, and that's important for folks coming out of RHCs. It's an incentive for people to move out. And then, let's see, Dayhab, there was some money in there for some, what we talked about today, social engagement. It was kind of a weird thing that was in Inslee's budget. And we think it was to help strengthen some of our community programs, particularly maybe respite around maybe having some tiered rates. And it was in Governor Inslee's budget. It's not in Governor Ferguson's budget. Governor Ferguson would also end the meaningful day service for folks living in adult family homes, which is concerning. He would not give a raise for assisted living. And we think he's silent on closing Rainier or Yakima Village School. There was going to be some rate increases for crisis diversion beds, overnight planned respite, and enhanced respite for children. He's choosing not to increase that. Some of these other things, reduces school to work, the budget in DVR for school to work, which is concerning. He would eliminate a program called Team Child, which is kind of a legal program for kids in foster care. And I don't know a lot about it. ECAP, that's for early childhood education programs. Bunch of cuts there that he would not. Some of these are programs that they didn't start. They were supposed to start, and this would just keep them from starting. But that's a big deal. And let's see. This is one we're scratching our heads about. We don't know what it means. DDA couldn't even tell us what it meant. A 30-bed ward at Western State Hospital is closed by April 2026, and the patients are transferred to a DDA facility. It does not say what facility. It doesn't say where it is or anything about it. So we're scratching our heads about that. Like, where would people go? What does that mean? The dental increase for children's dental was eliminated. The increase that was supposed to happen for ABA therapies was cut. And then there was some money at the governor's office for that children in crisis. We're guessing that's just money they didn't have to spend. So, that's a lot. And this is just the governor's. We don't know what the House and Senate budgets are going to look like. We're holding our breath. We won't know probably till I think it's let me double check, the 24th. I'm going to stop sharing and then I'll look here. Let's see. Yeah, the 24th. So be prepared, and probably the hearing will be on the 25th. So, you might want to mark that on your calendar to check out the budget. The 24th, I will be busy trying to get all the information to put in there, and probably the Senate will come in quickly after that. The other thing, let's see. I want to say again, you have an opportunity. So because it's cut off, we're kind of halfway through the session now. This weekend and the following weekend, a lot of your state legislators are going to be at home, and they're going to be holding town hall meetings. That's a great way to talk to your legislator and have a connection with them. It's also a great way to educate your neighbors about DD issues. So sometimes you can stand up and raise your hand and say, hey, what about cuts to DD? Your neighbors probably don't know anything about that. So it's a great opportunity. I think, yeah, Sean just put the link to where you can find the town halls. So this weekend and the following weekend, there's a bunch of them. So that's really important. Let's see. And then lastly, I'm going to share. We need to keep our eyes on Congress and continue to call them and tell them not to make cuts to Medicaid. It's changing daily. Right now, they made a decision that they decided the size of the federal budget that they're going to agree to. The House did. It's like this. It's like in your family budget, you decide how much money do you have to spend, and they've decided how much money they have to spend. But now they've got to go in and they've said, and in some of these categories, this is how much you have to spend. So they've decided the big picture and then in certain categories. Now it goes to the committees, and the committees have to make the budget for that category. The category that Medicare, Medicaid, and there's one other thing, Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. It's not Social Security, but anyway, is in something called Commerce. They want to cut $880 billion with a B over the next 10 years out of that category. What you need to know is the other categories in that budget, there's only like $158 billion for everything else. So even if they cut everything else but Medicaid and Medicare, it would not be enough to get them to the $880 billion. So we're worried, and we need to be telling Congress that not to make cuts to DD, Medicare and Medicaid programs. And remember, Medicaid is more than healthcare. It's your job coach, it's respite, it's, your residential services, it's your personal care, it's all of those things. So there's a phone number. I'll put the phone number. You can call this number and it'll connect you.
And Kathy, can I say this? Because this is but that needs to be said. The Medicare pays half of the transportation because that's the part that we all need. Yes, make sure it doesn't get cut.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of things we're worried about, but there's the phone number. You can call your congressional delegation. Also, some of our Congress folks are also at home and having town halls. So you can also look up when your congressional district delegation may be home for town halls, but call, write, all those things and tell them how important that Medicaid matters to you and how it impacts you. Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to Sean.
This is Sean. Next up, I'm going to share with our advocacy tips video.
My advocacy tip video. I'm doing 1 second. And people do that. Yeah, okay. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Sean Latham, the Policy Coordinator for Self-Advocates in Leadership.
And I'm Jessica Renner from Self-Advocates in Leadership.
We want to thank everyone for taking your time out today to join us for Advocacy Days. We're here to talk to you about how to become a trusted resource for legislators on issues affecting your life. Even though your elected officials represent you, they can't do this very well if they don't know what you want. We want to encourage you to contact your legislators throughout session, but especially this week, about the issues that matter to you.
That's right. With so many topics for legislators to learn about, Your knowledge of developmental disabilities helps them to do their job. You are the expert in telling your story and how it relates to decisions they are making. Here are some tips to help you make the most impact. Your time with legislators, staff, or aides is short, and your message should be too. When you communicate, sum up what the issue is and why it's important to you. Have a specific request related to a bill or budget item. Attack the problem, not the person. Follow up with a thank you. By doing this, you greatly increase your credibility and strengthen your legislative relationships. Bottom line, stick to what you know, which is your life, and how the issue affects you.
Here are some ways that you can reach out to your legislators. You can email them and their legislative assistant about your priorities. You can contact them through the legislative hotline phone number, which is 1-800-562-6000, and ask to leave a message for them. You can also share your opinion on a particular bill by using the hotline. We also encourage you to request either an in-person meeting with your legislators or a meeting with them over Zoom or Microsoft Teams. Please reach out to the legislative assistant of the legislator to request a meeting. You can watch the legislature at work on TVW, either on your TV, if you have the channel, or online at tvw.org. Another way you can participate is by signing up to testify at legislative hearings. For each hearing, you can sign up for the individual bills as pro, meaning you are for the bill, con, meaning you are against the bill, or other if you have concerns with the bill you generally like.
Let me now take you through the process using the Washington State Legislative website that can be found at leg.wi.gov. On the website under the menu, click on the menu item that states Bills, Meetings, and Session. From there, scroll down to the section titled Upcoming Committee Meetings and click on the link titled Sign into a Committee Meeting. Next, choose if you are testifying in a House hearing or testifying in a Senate hearing. We all have the choice to testify in person, testify by video remotely, or we can submit written testimony or just state what our position is on the bill.
After you pick one of the options, you will be taken to the form to register. You will need to fill out your position, your name, your email, your address, your phone number, and your organization, if you are representing one. It also asks you if you will testify on a panel or not. If you are testifying on a panel, it will ask you to fill in the names of the other panelists. The other box to make note of is the pronunciation box. If you want your name said right, you can sound it out in that box. Please check the box "I'm not a robot" at the end of the form, and then it's time to hit Submit Registration. Once you submit your registration, you will receive an email from a committee staff email address. Please read this email carefully and add the meeting to your desired calendar using the links in the email. From there, make sure you are ready to testify.
Don't forget about social media. A lot of legislators have accounts on Facebook and Twitter where you can comment or watch live stream chats and virtual town halls.
It's so important to stay informed and involved. Participate in virtual advocacy days, sign up for the ARC of Washington's action alerts, get updates at arcwa.org, and follow on Facebook. Connect with local parent and self-advocate groups. And remember, change is made by those who show up.
Alright. Hold on a minute. I'm switching. I don't want to.
This is Sean. Today's topic was about creating communities that welcome those with I/DD better and looking at the many programs and services that helps prevent social isolation. The summary from this week's one-pager states: everyone deserves the opportunity to have friends, engage in activities they enjoy, and continue learning. However, individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, I/DD, often face significant barriers to community engagement. These barriers include a lack of personal care support, limited access to transportation, and insufficient funds to participate in activities. While some developmental disabilities administration (DDA) programs, such as community inclusion, community engagement, respite, and personal care, are available, they often do not provide enough hours for a robust schedule of activities. I know for myself it's super important for me to get out of my house and put down my computer screen and have social activities to do with my friends and family. For many of us, participating in sports, creative activities, or just going out to lunch or dinner helps with building community connections and helping with our mental health. We must remember that, while it's important to talk about and protect services and supports for things like personal care, education, and employment, equally important is to help us maintain the community and recreation supports, services, and programs like Special Olympics, day activities, respite, community inclusion, and engagement and mentorship. We all need to make sure places like the Tavan Center, Max Higby, and Summit Community Center and others receive adequate funds. And as Mona stated, learning what individuals' interests are will help us develop and participate in activities in the community. We encourage you this week to reach out to your legislators about the topics you heard today and the program and services needed. We all need to succeed. I will add again, it's very important to reach out to all of our legislators to educate them about our issues. Sharing your personal stories is one of the best ways for your legislators to get to know what you need. For more information about these and other issues you learned about today, I'm going to post this week's one-pager in the chat. Also, again, please see the ARC's bills of interests. With that, I will thank everybody for coming today, especially our great speakers. A few of us will stay for a few minutes after. If people have questions, and remember, change is made by those who show up. Thank you.
And if you haven't filled out the poll, please do take a minute to do it. Should just take you a few minutes.